What's up, guys? I got another little build showcase for you guys today. This is a yellow and blue skill survival build, and it's actually my main build that I run in-game, whether solo or raiding with my clan. And just a little bit of backstory on it. The way that I came up with this build was I was actually in a motorcycle accident back in February and landed on my elbow. I believe there's nerve damage in it, though it's not confirmed. And there are days where my right hand is in so much pain that running a DPS build and constantly squeezing the right trigger is just not something I'm happy to do. So what I did was I tried to come up with a build because I didn't want to feel useless. I didn't want to go all yellow or all red or just a mixture of both and, have a hybrid build where I'm constantly going down because my hand is hurting or something like that. So I wanted to do something, and the question that I asked myself was, how can I build up enough skill damage to allow the skills to do the work while also maintaining at least 1 million armor and survivability? And this is the build that I came up with. This build will wipe ads in raids. It will DPS bosses in raids. It will provide crowd control on any difficulty, whether that be heroic or legendary strongholds, anything like that. There's nothing in this game that this build can't handle, and there's a lot of versatility in the way that you want to build it, but we will get into that as the video goes on. I'm a very strategic thinker when it comes to the game. With the way that I play, I always try to create either choke points to trap enemies in the fish in a barrel mindset, or I try to create crossfires. And the main goal of this build is to go into an area, kind of observe the cover, see if I can get any high ground where the turret can have a complete line of sight on the area, and just be constantly aware and prioritize enemies and prioritize my surroundings to be able to create the kind of outcome that I want to. This build has 2 Hana-U pieces. One of them is a Force Multiplier with the combined arms talent. It has 2 Empress pieces, and it has 1 Gila Guard piece. The cores are all rolled for skill damage, skill haste, or armor regen. I have 3 gear mods on it. They are all armor on kill, a minimum of 17,000. So that's also what helps to keep this build going, is as the damage goes up, the armor regen goes up, and the base armor is 1.1 million. So you'll see throughout the video, there's rarely a time where I need to panic about where my health is. Most of the time, I'll just be observing an area tactically, trying to point my skills in the right direction while keeping their buffs going up. One question you may have right off the bat, because you'll see that my skills are still skill tier 6, is how I was able to achieve that. And the answer is that this build runs with the Technician class to give it an extra 10% skill damage. My armor kits not only heal me, they heal any skills within proximity of me to a certain degree. And it grants a passive 1 skill tier, so that's why I'm able to equip the Gila Guard piece with the extra armor as well.
Theater or the White House, but neither's good for us.
Now, the chest talent I have on this build is Kinetic Momentum, which builds up passively in combat to a 15% damage increase on your skills. And I have the Waveform exotic equipped, so that will come out to a 30% damage bonus on 1 skill, and that passively will transfer back and forth between one and the other. So if the damage bonus from Waveform starts on the turret, it will go from being a 30% damage bonus on the turret to a 30% damage bonus on the drone, and vice versa. And this process, as stated on the exotic, repeats to an infinite degree. So as long as I am in combat, I am going to be passively generating that damage without having to worry about sacrificing any of my armor. You could also run this build with glass cannon. I have a piece that if I'm in a group of people I'm comfortable with, I will actually sub out kinetic momentum for glass cannon. The trade-off on that is that you get a 25% complete damage increase to your weapon damage and your skills, but it evens out the armor basically to what it would be normally. Normally my armor is at 726,000, I believe. So, to put it plainly, basically what you would be doing is turning your 1 million armor into that 726k and adding 10% damage to the 15% that kinetic momentum generates. And that's personally, to me, not a ratio that I enjoy consistently enough to run it like that. It is something you can do if that's what you prefer, though.
You're gonna have to do this room by room. We have zero intel.
The weapons that I'm using on this build are the capacitor assault rifle, which is providing the skill damage bonus up to 40 stacks, on top of generating 7.5% extra damage per skill tier, and the Harmony for the perfect in sync talent. There's about a 5 to 7 second span. If your capacitor is at max bonus and you swap to the Harmony, you can actually have the Harmony skill damage bonus and the capacitor damage bonus going for about 5 to 7 seconds. And if you're doing it consistently enough, you can actually get used to triggering it on purpose. So that's something you'll see throughout the video as well. It's something I attempt to do quite often because that's a massive amount of skill damage you can have running at one time. The atrium, and the biggest reason that I picked this mission is actually this encounter right here. The atrium is a very, very, very good place to show the versatility of this build and just how you kind of want to strategically apply it. So what I do is I throw the disruption grenade right out, get that group of enemies down, plop the turret up so we can start taking them out one by one in that group. And I send the drone to the other side upstairs to where I know the enemies are going to spawn. And you'll actually see in this encounter that my drone solos the named elite that comes out. That's the first encounter boss, quote unquote, of this mission, while my turret covers all the adds of the ground floor.
Confirming that Puck is down. Good work. Continue clearing the building.
You'll notice that I always try and manually blow the drone. I have a 16-second cooldown on the build. My cooldowns aren't as low as they can be, but the reason for that is you can manually pick up the turret, and my turret, when you pick it up, has, I want to say, a 4 to 7 second cooldown depending on where its health is at. The drone has a 16-second cooldown, but it basically takes 15 to 16 seconds to travel from one area to another. So you'll notice that after each encounter, I always try and blow them manually so they're fully ready to go for the next area. Right here, you'll notice something I picked up on a little bit ago. Even if you're not running a pulse, so you can see enemies through walls, your skills will often create this red line, and that kind of tells you where enemies are even if you can't see them. So at this moment, I wasn't looking at my HUD because I was trying to focus on the cover that I was going to, but I was able to notice that an enemy was coming behind me anyway because of the red line that went across the screen, so I know I'm being flanked and I can make that adjustment. This is another good example of showing off the strategy. With this build, you always want to try and have the high ground. So what I do is I go up, I place the turret where it has a full view of the room. It needs to be able to swivel. And I pull out the drone because the drone is obviously mobile. I could send it to wherever it needs to go. The turret needs to have the best view and the best range to be able to see almost in a 360-degree radius. You'll notice the 4 little symbols at the bottom of the screen. You have what looks like little bulbs, and then you have what looks like actually like a Galaga spaceship. And the 2 little ones that look like arrows going left and right. The first 2, the bulbs, are kinetic momentum. The second 2 are the Waveform exotic. And the one all the way to the right, the little spaceship looking one, is the capacitor skill damage bonus. It takes 40 rounds on target to trigger the capacitor damage bonus at its peak, and the capacitor has a 42 round magazine. So as long as you keep an eye on that, you can actually prioritize when you're firing the weapon and when you can stop, take a breath, reload, and reassess what's going on. And once you get the hang of that, that's when you can start saying, hey, my capacitor damage bonus is full. I know it's full, so I'm going to take out the harmony and shoot another enemy, and the harmony bonus will pop up with gear symbols. It will at most have 3 gear symbols. And at 3 gear symbols, you have a 40% skill damage bonus going. So you can have the skill damage bonus going with capacitor and harmony at the same time, as long as you keep an eye on that. You'll notice that I'm constantly trying to point one skill at one enemy to prioritize and another skill at another enemy to prioritize. A huge part of this build is strategy and knowing where to point the skills to do the damage for you. That's why right now I'm using the harmony, and you'll see that I'm not just taking it out and unloading the entire magazine. Accuracy is key. It only takes 40 hits to trigger the capacitor. It doesn't take kills, and it takes you shooting an enemy to trigger the harmony bonus. So it's way better for you to be accurate than it is for you to be a murder machine. To clarify a little bit on that last comment, I just thought about it. What I mean by 40 hits with the capacitor is for its peak potential. The capacitor gives a skill damage bonus per round that strikes an enemy up to 40 times. Now, rooms like this or areas like this in-game are where this build does get a little tricky. You have to be able to navigate it, be a little bit more patient, because there's a ton of cover around, and the turret won't fire through cover. It will only fire when an enemy is running through the open. So one strategy you can use that you'll see I use is if you have enough grenades on you, you can throw a grenade towards an enemy to get them to come out of their cover, or you could try and place the turret in an area to cover a flank where you know enemies are going to spawn, and send your drone to the areas the turret can't cover. Either way, this requires a little bit more patience. This little hallway was actually a really good place to be able to show a little bit more of the mindset of the build, where you can see that the drone is capable of covering one entire side of the hallway, the turret is capable of covering another side of the hallway, and all the enemies don't have enough cover to hide from them. So if they run towards me, they're running towards the skills. So that's a little bit more of the strategical fish in a barrel mindset you can have. And the fact that there's the wall in the center not only provides me more mobility because I don't have to get down behind cover, I can constantly move, but it provides me the ability to still prioritize enemies as needed. And again, the turret's cooldown when you pick it up is dependent upon its health. My turret hadn't really taken any damage right there, so as you can see when I picked it up, it only had a 2-second cooldown.
Looks like they're taking up defensive positions around a mobile command post topside.
In this rooftop encounter, I know that enemies are going to drop down onto the top of the center building first, and I know that I need to hold a certain position for a specific amount of time to begin the rooftop encounter. So what I do is I throw my turret onto the top of a little overhang on the right hand side to be able to cover all of the gap and the open space between the building in the center and me, where the enemies are going to spawn. And what that allows me to do is have the drone as a floater for when I move later. So the drone can cover any of the line of sight that the turret doesn't have.
Download initiated.
Now, if you see the orange meters that are over the drone and the turret, that's how long they have left to be available. And one little mistake that I make in this area that I'm actually glad that I made, because I get to teach you guys because of it, is what I try to do pretty often is I try to manually blow up the drone while the turret is still alive and has enough time to wait for the drone to come back before the turret dies, because that allows me to always have one skill out doing some kind of damage to everything around me. I hit a point here where everything is being wiped so quickly, and I took my eyes off of it for a second, and I actually lose both skills at the same time. And that's where the survivability comes in. Because of that, I'm able to perch, reposition, and still complete the encounter without taking a ton of damage. But that is something you need to keep your eye on. And often, due to the fact that you could pick up the turret, I can't do it here because of its location. But pretty often, I'm sitting next to it, and what I'll do if I need to reposition is I'll have the drone go aggro the priority enemy in the area, pick up the turret, and reposition myself while they pay attention to the drone, and that strategy can work as well. Another thing you've gotten to see over the last 30 seconds or so is the armor regen cores at work. You can slowly see my armor bar refilling itself, and it will refill more every single time one of my skills wipes out an ad. So that's one of the things that I really love about the build. DPS is insanely important in this game. That's extremely true. But DPS doesn't matter if you're dead. So the fact that you can put out this much damage, have this much versatility, and be able to strategize like this while also keeping this level of survivability is what makes this build so useful. Another thing you'll have noticed right there is while I was shooting the little health drop that kind of enemy can put down on the ground, those rounds still count towards your capacitor or your harmony bonus. And that's one of the things that I noticed that I really love about the game, is you can be in an area and actually prioritize an object to take out if you can't see an enemy with this build. And because your skills are able to go get that enemy, you can send your skills after that enemy, shoot the object on the ground or wherever it is, and you'll still be applying all of your buffs. And you can see right here that you can move enemies basically at will as long as you can chuck a grenade at their position. You don't need to worry about the grenade killing them. You can just throw a grenade and they'll basically do whatever you want them to. And quick note, I actually forgot Carver was a medic enemy. So when that res drone came out earlier, I was actually kind of surprised as to why there was a res drone on the field and then it hit me. What I should have done here is I should have had the turret on top of the little area that I was holding earlier, so it had a 360 degree view, and the turret should have been on the top at the front of that so it could swing over to shoot Carver while also maintaining line of sight on the ads. We're coming up on the last encounter for this mission, and it's back in the atrium, and it's another perfect example of what you could kind of do with this build. What I do is I go in, again, turret placement is key. You want to play the drone off of the turret to create that crossfire. So I drop the turret in the center, I have the drone aggro another side, and because the turret has complete line of sight on the entire area, it allows me to switch cover to wherever I need to be to take as little damage and still command the battlefield all at once. And that's something you're going to see and that you have seen throughout this entire mission. Now, it's like I said, I don't normally pop an entire magazine from the Harmony into an enemy, but I personally hate medics because they're just insanely annoying for obvious reasons. So enemies like that, you want to make sure you could pump rounds into them. This is the kind of build, there's a heavy on the map on the right-hand side in the beginning of this area. You actually love having heavies in the area because they're such a large target, you can easily use them to get your entire capacitor and harmony bonus going. Have the drone and the turret wiping out the ads as you do, and then just put them both on the heavy while you have the max skill damage bonus.
All clear. Black Tusk appears to have abandoned the location.
Alright, well, I hope you guys have enjoyed the video. There will be more build videos for the Division 2 as well as other games on my channel in the future. I will post the entire build and the pieces required to make it in the description for the video. And other than that, I hope wherever you are that you are having yourself a great day or night. And I will we'll see you guys next time.